I'm going to call the meeting to order. It is 5:35, puts us right on time. All right, welcome everyone. Stephanie, can you go ahead with the roll call? Thank you.
All right.
That's Guadalupe.
Yeah, there you're good.
I'm looking at her name tag, and then you're the one.
But just in case more people come in. All right, Steve Bischoff. Helen Burks, for the record, is absent at the moment. Marisol Cantu. Eddie Chacon, sent in an excused absence. Sorry, let me go over here. Luis Chacon. Here. Don Gosney. Here. Kristen Killian Lobos. Here. Sorry. Armand Lee is absent at the moment. Not yet. I haven't gotten to him yet. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So Randy Joseph is also has an excused absence as well. Leah Murray is not here. Right. Helen Brooks is here. Marcus Engesing. Here. Jamin Purcell. Here. Deborah Small. Present. Ben Terrio. Here. Linda Whitmore. Present. B.K. Williams. Here. And Tamisha Walker? And that is roll call.
Okay.
Sorry, that is 12 task force members present and 6 task force members absent.
Okay. That doesn't include Helen, right? She's here.
Oh, sorry. So that should be 13 present and 5 absent.
Just checking. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Good to see you, Helen. Okay, next item, agenda review and adoption. Does anyone have any proposed changes to the current agenda? Going. Seeing no hands raised, I'm going to say that the agenda is adopted as put forward. We don't have to take a vote on that. So, Stephanie or Guadalupe, which one of you is going to review the meeting procedures?
That would be me as well.
Thank you, Guadalupe.
Yeah. All right, so I will now read an announcement to the public. Anyone may make an oral comment, even if a written one has been previously submitted. However, each speaker may raise their hand once to make one oral public comment per agenda item. We will hold public comment very shortly after item F, City Staff Liaison Reports. So if you would like to speak, please raise your hand. For agenda items under item H, presentations, discussions, and action items, you may raise your hand at that time. So an announcement will be made when it is time for public comment.
Thank you, Guadalupe. Next item is to approve the minutes from the March 22nd meeting. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes. Thank you. Thank you. It's moved by Gosney, seconded by Burks. Any conversation? Any discussion? If not, I'd like to call the vote.
All right. Steve Bischoff? Aye. Helen Burks? Aye. Marisol Cantu? Aye. Luis Chacon?
Yeah.
Don Gosney?
Yes.
Kristen Killian Lobos?
Yes.
Marcus Engesing?
Yes.
Jamin Purcell?
Yes.
Deborah Small?
Yes.
Ben Terrio?
Yes.
Linda Whitmore?
Yes.
B.K. Williams?
Yes.
Tamisha Walker? Okay. So the motion is approved with 12 ayes, 1 abstention, and 5 task force members absent.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item on the agenda is city staff reports.
Good evening, everyone. LaShonda White, Deputy City Manager and Staff Liaison. Happy to be here tonight. Have a few fun announcements to make about upcoming events. So this Saturday, it's going to be a full day if you're happy to come out to the city of Richmond and enjoy Park Prescription Day, which is at Nickel Park. And that starts at 10. It goes from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. It's a way to get out and parks our health. So we want to get out and enjoy our park, and there's lots of things that'll be happening there. Then at 1 p.m., you can come right back over here to City Hall to the Civic Center Plaza and enjoy the Literacy Fair. And that's from 1 to 4. There's going to be free books and activities and just a lot of really great information to share and activities there also. Then on May 6th is Cinco de Mayo Parade and Festival. The parade starts at Barrett and 24th at 10 a.m. and ends in San Pablo at St. Paul's Church at 12:30. And for the festival, does anyone? No, the Cinco de Mayo Festival. I know it's the same day. Anyone? I will get that information to you all. I was looking for the start time of it. So I will get that, and I apologize. But the Cinco de Mayo Festival is that same day, which is on, I believe, Sunday. I don't know if Allison or... Oh, thank you. The Community Forum, which we're also going to talk about during the presentation that is happening next, is we have a Community Crisis Response Program Forum, and that'll happen this Thursday, April 27th. It'll be virtual. So I hope you all have that marked down. We sent an email to you all. It'll be the first of 2 forums. It's at 6 p.m. And then the second one will be on Monday, May 1st, in person at City Council chambers. And it's just another opportunity to get input from community. We have surveys, focus groups have happened. So it's another opportunity for you all to come out if you're interested and hear more about what you're going to hear about tonight, and provide additional feedback. But please do us a favor and share that information with all your friends, families, and everyone. Anything else, Lupe, Stephanie, or Allison? Any other update? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, LaShonda. Now it's time for public comments.
Okay, if anybody would like to make a public comment on an item that is not on the agenda, please raise your hand now. And Don Gosney, you could go first. You have 2 minutes to speak.
Just want to remind everybody in here that the meeting is being recorded, not just by the media, but also by staff. And if you don't speak into the microphone, a lot of times you can't be heard. And if you can't be heard, people watching at home, they wonder what's going on behind their backs. What kind of secrecies are we having here? So if you can, just try to remember to use the microphone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And we'll move on to Ben Terrio. Did you have your hand raised?
I do. I think my voice carries though for the microphone. You have to have it for the outside. Sure. Thank you.
It picks up in the audio system.
Oh, okay. Yeah, my public comment is about decorum amongst this this body, and quite frankly, with the chair. A couple weeks ago, to be perfectly blunt, at City Council, I felt slandered and defamed by you. I thought that was completely inappropriate, considering the fact that I've essentially voted in line with you probably 90% of the time, if not more. I was pretty much taken aback. I sent you a couple emails about it as well. Never got a response because I didn't want to do this publicly. I wanted to at least find and understand where you were coming from. But I think it's really important that people, and I've sat back for the past couple of years since I've been on this thing, and I've seen a lot of people thrown under the bus, Tamisha, a few others, and I'm really astonished by the level or lack of decorum by some people. And the nice thing about it is when I'm here, I'm not a police officer, so I don't have to sit back and just take it, because normally that happens a lot, quite frankly, on the street. I think it's unacceptable. I'm pretty much at a loss, and I kind of weighed not participating in this task force anymore, which I think would be a loss for a lot of folks, because there's a lot of things that have to do with law enforcement and the interaction of how that can be reimagined in different aspects and facets. And that just, unfortunately, to me, would be lost among folks to not have that. And so I'm really upset at the way I was treated, really coming out of the blue. And, quite frankly, I'd like a public apology, because none of that was true. I haven't obstructed doing anything. At best, I ask a couple of questions, which I think is appropriate. I don't, get in the way of anybody or any type of process here. I'm here to help and make things go forward. And so that's all. I'm just a little upset at that, and I'd definitely like to talk about it, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Other public comments? Chair Small.
LaShonda was ahead of me, so go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I wanted to make a public comment about Cinco de Mayo because I found the information. So the Cinco de Mayo parade is on Saturday, May 6th. Starts at 10 a.m. in Richmond, ends at 12:30 in San Pablo. The Cinco de Mayo festival happens on Sunday, May 7th from 10 to 5 on 23rd Street between Clinton Avenue and Ream Avenue. And it'll be a day filled with food, music, and live entertainment for the entire family. Thank you.
Thank you. And the next speaker, Chair Small.
So I have to say that I find it amazing that Ben Terrio would take this opportunity at a task force meeting to criticize a remark I made at a city council meeting, not at a task force meeting, about something that he said at a city council meeting. And specifically, I took issue with the fact that he had objections to a legal aid attorney being on the CCRB and claiming that somehow that was a conflict of interest, that they would not be objective and biased, when my observation was that he didn't see any problems with expressing his bias publicly and otherwise about the work of the task force. That was specifically the comment that I made. It was true. So the fact that you find it defamatory, something can't be defamatory if it's true. And secondly, I just want to note that it has become somehow a tactic of people on the right to raise issues of decorum when other people say things that they don't like, irrespective of whether or not they have a history of showing decorum in meetings. All of a sudden, decorum becomes the watchword for people who have objections to free speech by people that they disagree with. Well, I do believe that the First Amendment is still alive and well in America, that I have a free speech right to say what I believe, what I think. I didn't say anything untrue. I didn't use any derogatory or curse language. I spoke my mind. You have the right to speak your mind. I only said that I thought your statement was hypocritical. I still think that. You have a problem? Too bad.
Thank you. Tamisha.
Hello, task force members, Richmond community out there somewhere in TV land, if this is on TV or being recorded. Tamisha Torres Walker, member of this task force, speaking in public comment on behalf of myself. I just found out today that this community suffered a loss of a young person connected to this community and families across this community. And I think, you know, the grief and the mourning is real, considering all of the work that this task force has done to try to provide credible opportunities for young people in this city, and not just this task force, but other people who serve high-risk young people every day. And so in light of this most recent incident, I just want to offer to the community of Richmond and to the family my condolences, and any support that anybody around this table can offer you should do so. And I also just want to thank the Office of Neighborhood Safety for their work that they've been doing in this community for years to save lives.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Task Force Member Whitmore.
Okay, Linda Whitmore, and I wanted to make a point about decorum. I think what happens in this task force, personal feelings about what people say or do should stay here. When we're out in the public, we're talking about ideas that we have, things that we're working on, but not talking about personalities and about how you don't agree with someone because they might not agree with a comment we made here in the task force. I think that's wrong. I think that when we go out in the public, we're talking about comments that we're working on, things we're working on, not saying I don't agree how you voted or what you think or your attitude. That has nothing to do with what we're talking about outside of this task force when we go out and we're in the public talking about different ideas, different programs we're working on, not personal attacks. And I thought it was wrong, Chairman Small, that you made a personal attack of someone in this on the task force, and it had nothing to do with what was at issue. You know, if I disagree with something, that's me, Linda, not because and you go back to how I voted or what I thought about. It has nothing to do with what I was voting on. So I think that we have to think about that. Respect each other when we're here. Respect each other when we're not here. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comments? Chair Small?
My hand is up. So again, if you're going to respond or...
I'm sorry, you can't make a public comment twice during open forum. This is not a dialogue, because otherwise we can continue all day, and
Well,
I
but
can be told-
I'm sorry, so I can be personally attacked, but I can't respond. That's what you're telling me.
I will let the city attorney confirm, but I do not believe we can go back and forth.
I agree with LaShonda. I think what happened at a city council meeting is outside the scope of this task force, and what public comment is designed to do is give public comment for the scope of the task force itself. I think what happens outside of the task force meetings is a separate topic and probably shouldn't be a discussion in public comment. And I'm saying that for all three of you, not...
How about the number of times a person can speak in a public comment?
Yeah, it's my understanding that somebody's only supposed to speak once.
That's not the rule we followed up to now, but okay, fine, let's go on. Next agenda item. Is there any more public comment?
Oh, Lupe, if you want to read what we actually have.
Sorry, I just wanted to say, I did mention during the meeting procedures that each speaker may raise their hand once to make one public comment per agenda item, including public comment.
Thank you.
Thank
Are
you.
there any more public comments? Next agenda item, presentation, discussions, and action items. Number 1, receive fiscal year 2022-23 program and budget reports on the 4 task force intervention areas: unhoused interventions, community crisis response, youth works, and Office of Neighborhood Safety.
Thank you, everyone. We have, so at the last meeting, there was a request to provide more detailed budget information on the 4 intervention areas and to ask staff representing those intervention areas to attend tonight's meeting. And so we do have at least one staff representative that can speak to each of these intervention areas. We collected the most detailed data that we could and provided that as part of the packet. But we do have, as I stated, staff available if there are questions about the budget, questions about services. And so with that, I will turn it over. We can do, Chair, is there a way in which order? No? Okay. All right, let's do unhoused. Jesus is raising his hand, excited, so we're gonna talk about unhoused interventions first.
I have a PowerPoint. Can you show that?
Here, I'm gonna move it.
Can I just sit here and go through it?
Yeah, I can move it. I'm gonna be closer.
Thank you. Called budget update. It's not coming up.
It's frozen. My computer's frozen.
So while we're trying to access the file, I'll start talking, see if we can come in. Anyway, so what I had for you today, good evening, Chair, Small Task Force members, Jesus Morales, Housing Manager with the City of Richmond. The information I had for you tonight was an update on the contracts and the use of the funds that have been used for unhoused intervention. The first item I was going to talk about was the contract with Rebuilding Together East Bay North, the SOS program. So Rebuilding Together had a contract with the city that was being administered by SOS. The original contract was for $983,975, which was all funded from account RI 160, which is the Reimagining Task Force account. This was approved on July 20th, 2021. Amendment number 2 to that contract was approved on November 15, 2022, which added $166,504.72 for a total contract amount not to exceed $1,150,479.72, which expires on June 30th, 2023. That's the following slide. So for fiscal year 21-22, and I'm reading the third bullet point down, so you can follow, fiscal year 2022-23, which covers the period from July 1, 2022 through June 30th, 2023. There has been payments made of $503,738.20. I know the task force had requested a line item breakdown, and I have to apologize that we haven't gotten the invoices and broken them down on the line item. Part of the challenge is this contract goes back to 2021, so there's approximately 90 invoices, and unfortunately I didn't have time to go through each invoice so I could give you a line item breakdown. Nevertheless, for the payments that were made this fiscal year, $503,000 and change, so the labor costs for employees represented approximately 65% of that amount. Supplies represented 20%, subcontractor costs 5%, and indirect cost charges are 10%. So that is fairly reflective of what it would be for the total contract amount. If the board chooses, I can always come back at the next meeting and try to give you a better idea of what those line items look in the budget for all the charges going back to when the contract started. The remaining balance on this contract is $42,716.36, and this still has a March invoice that's pending, so that will be taken out of that $42,000, and that'll leave us somewhere around $10,000 when once we process that invoice. And just for your information, approximately $600,000 was paid in fiscal year 21-22 for this contract. Next slide. So we also have a contract with the Housing Consortium of the East Bay, HCEB. The original contract for $560,000 was approved on April 1, 2021. There were a series of amendments, mostly extending the term of the contract. However, amendment number 5, approved on August 1, 2022, added $404,958, and this was money from the Reimagining Fund account for a total contract amount not to exceed $964,958, which was to expire on September 30, 2022. Subsequently, amendment number 6, which was approved on September 20, 2022, added $50,000 to the contract for a total not to exceed $1,014,958, which was due to expire on December 31, 2022. And I would add that this $50,000 was from the ARPA funds, and this was actually the $50,000 that was added to the contract to provide Right and Road residents a disbursement of flex funds to allow them to cover costs that they might need relative to repairing their cars, registration, and other items like that. Amendment number 7 extended the term to June 30th, 2023, since the housing rent payments are extending beyond the original contract expiration of December 31, 2022. The remaining balance from the $404,958 Reimagining Fund account is currently $137,492.72, and there are some invoices pending payment that'll be taken from this balance. Next slide. And apologize for the small print. Probably could have put this on 2 slides, but anyway, other unhoused interventions. So the city received $4.8 million to resolve the Castro encampment. This grant will expire on June 30th, 2024. Purpose of the grant was to provide essential living amenities and assist approximately 102 residents to transition to housing using Housing First principles, and also to restore the site to its original condition. Relative to the Encampment Resolution Funding grant program, we also submitted an application for Round 2 NOFA requesting $8.6 million to focus on citywide encampments and Caltrans right-of-way. We were supposed to hear from the state in April. However, we got notified that the state would be notifying jurisdictions if they were awarded sometime in May. So we're looking forward to hear some positive news from the state that we'll be getting additional funds. Another program that's currently in place is the Housing First program and Emergency Rental Assistance Program. This program was approved on December 2022 in the amount of $425,000 for the Housing First program, and this is providing priority to former Wright Road residents and also $100,000 for short-term emergency rental assistance. RCF, Richmond Community Foundation, was selected as the program administrator. And with this program, we have already transitioned some of the Wrighton residents whose assistance had expired from the Wrighton Road funding that are now getting rental assistance from the Housing First program. Another program that we're looking to request and submit an application is the Home Key program. This is a statewide program offered to local jurisdictions to acquire properties to provide permanent, transitional, and other housing to homeless residents. So we're evaluating a motel acquisition rehab for the home, to submit an application for the Home Key program. This application is due by July 2023. Anticipating that there will be a large demand for the funds for this program, we expect that it'll be oversubscribed. We're really targeting submittal of our application hopefully by the end of May, but no later than early June, so we can get ahead of this July 23 deadline, because the state will accept applications up until that date or up until the funds have been exhausted based on the applications that they have received. In addition, the city currently has a contract with CORE, Contra Costa County Coordinated Outreach Referral Engagement Team. We're looking to expand the CORE contract so we can get their services for 5 days and also add additional personnel to that team. Most recently, the City Council approved a contract with SOS Richmond in the amount of $738,693.59. There's a typo there, from the Reimagining Task Force funds on March 30th, 2023. The contract will be to provide services to the unhoused, such as showers, trash pickup, the street team, and outreach services. That concludes my presentation. I'm available for if you have any questions.
Okay, let's start around this way. So people, but just raise hands. I just want to see who has questions. Marisol? Did you have your hand up, Luis? Okay, so let's start with you, Marisol. I'm sorry. Sorry.
Do we talk first, or do you take public comment first?
No, we ask.
And then take public comment after? Okay.
Okay, Marisol.
Can you hear me okay? Great. Thank you so much. It's a really detailed presentation. I am a little confused in particular about what is the reimagining kind of bucket, RI60. From my understanding, the last recommendation that we voted on and put to the city council was for an unhoused intervention, which was $1 million with SOS, HCEB, CORE, any other of the scattered sites, like those specifically were not part of anything that we voted on and we recommended. We only had one intervention with SOS. So I'm just confused I'm glad that we know so much more now about all of these, but just needed clarity.
So if we can go to page 4, I believe it's on the slides, right there. So the information here is really just to provide you some background on other things that the city is doing. This is not necessarily any using funding from the Reimagining Task Force, except for the contract there at the bottom with SOS Richmond that was approved on March the 30th, 2023. And these other programs that I'm talking about are not using any of that funding. They're funded separately from different sources.
Okay, perfect. And we didn't actually vote or put that forward. That was just moved from, not even from our original reallocation of $6.3 million. That has already been used, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so the 700, City Council approved a new contract. This was the first time I'm aware of it. Because we didn't actually recommend it. I just want to make sure things aren't like, for public and for minutes, are not coming back to the task force that we allocated all of these funds. And so I want to make it very clear that we made one allocation to SOS, those are expended, and now all of these are clearly other ones voted on the city task force, voted by the city council, not by us. Is that correct?
As far as I know, yes.
Okay, thank you for that clarity.
Helen?
Thank you all. That covered some of the questions I had. I think when I was looking through here was looking at the original contract. And I know this might be beyond the scope of this presentation, but I'm trying to look at, of the services that were in the original proposal and in this kind of budget that was proposed here, which of these services came to fruition. And so, for instance, I'm looking at that scattered sites, there was a separate funding that was talked about, but here it was part of the original proposal for that original budget amount for SOS, but I don't think that ended up happening. So I wondered if we could get some report out on if that was part of what the funds have been used for over the last year, where it talked about the scattered sites being the partnership with different sites within the city of Richmond.
So which part of it are you saying that didn't occur?
Let me get the page number for you, because that will make it. How do I see a page number on here? I'm on page 28, which 28 of 74, it talks about the Secured Scattered Sites program, and that part of the original funding was for manage and support of secure scattered sites program locations for vehicle dwellers.
Right,
Yes.
so they didn't necessarily provide, quote, security. What happened, one, we actually hired or had security for the Ride and Road encampment, because there was a very set encampment, so there was security provided. SOS didn't provide it. HCEB, which was the administrator that we had working at the Ride and Road, actually provided the security for that encampment. Similarly, for the Castro encampment, SOS doesn't provide security services there. We've actually hired separate security. So they don't have, I know this talks about security, but because of the fluidity of these encampments where people are, it would really be difficult to have SOS provide, or anyone provide security, because they're sites that people are moving around, so it's not a set area. So
Yeah.
yes, that-
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm not asking about security for those sites. From my understanding, the Secured Scattered Site program was a specific program that was supposed to be implemented in which SOS was going to partner with a variety of different sites to provide these vehicle dwellers
Yeah.
a whole host of things, including individualized programs. And from what I've seen, that didn't happen at all. So I guess my concern is that was part of the original proposed budget. From my understanding, that didn't happen. So I'm wondering about where the money went instead of going to this, if that makes sense.
So-
And I know it's not that easy to point to, but that's what I'm trying to raise in my question.
Right, and thank you for that clarification. I misunderstood the question. So, one, we have been working on looking at scattered sites. Various sites were identified, a list had been provided. As I recall, there were approximately 40 sites that we were looking and reviewing for any number of reasons. None of those sites would work out. A lot of it had to do with neighborhood opposition to what was perceived to be a potential homeless encampment being put in the neighborhood, even though this was supposed to be RVs, et cetera. So that didn't happen. We're still looking at that program. I'd have to go back and look at the budget and see if there was anything specific that SOS was charging for that. But I think most of the budget had to do with the services that we're providing at the encampments, which was trash debris pickup, providing showers, providing outreach and items like that. So, but again, I can check and see if there was anything specific that was linked to that particular item.
Thank you. A couple of staff questions first. Can I assume that this PowerPoint presentation, as well as any of the others that we may be seeing tonight that are last-minute additions, will be forwarded to us as soon as possible so we can review them and have them in our archives? Don't want to leave anything as an assumption itself. Second is, it would be very helpful for us, at least for me, if we could put page numbers on every page of our agenda packet, 1 through 74 in this instance. We've got a series of different add-ins here, each with their own separate page numbers. Helen Burks was just referring to page 28, which you can find if you go to the online PDF, but on the printed version, there is no page 28 anywhere. So it made it very difficult to try to follow along with what she's saying before she finishes up. Now, a couple of questions here. Perhaps I'm very confused, and hopefully maybe, Jesus, you can unconfuse me. We keep referring to the task force budget. Even on this 2+ page spreadsheet that we received in our packet, I'm seeing that we've got the Reimagining Public Safety Community Task Force FY 2022-23 budget. As I understood, we're an advisory body that all we can do is advise the city council to take monies away from the general fund and allocate them as they so choose at a public meeting. And that we don't actually have a budget. We don't have authorization to spend any money at all. We don't have money that has been allocated specifically for the task force to decide what to do with or how to spend. Am I incorrect on that?
So, and that's probably a misnomer on my part. I'm referring to it as the task force budget. It's actually just the account that I'm referencing. In the PowerPoint, you'll see up there, for example, RI 160. And just for ease of identifying the fund, I've been calling it the Reimagining Task Force Fund account. It's not actually that, but just a way for me to identify that particular account where this money is coming from for these programs.
I appreciate that clarification. I mean, I've already received a couple of texts from people that are wondering just what kind of budget do we have? What kind of an account does this task force have? And when
Right.
we don't really have one. Again, all we can do is make a recommendation to the city council so that it can be brought up at a public city council meeting, be discussed, and then voted on by the elected council members on there. And did you have anything to do with this 2+ page spreadsheet that we received, or was this done by somebody else?
I'm not actually,
That spreadsheet is high level and it's from us.
Okay, so it tells me that this is more than just you putting down on there, because this specifically says on the title, a budget of the task force itself.
Okay.
And again, it's just,
If it's misleading, I understand, and we can provide clarification.
that's all I'm asking for, please.
No, we can do
Thank you.
that. What you stated was that this task force is an advisory body, and recommendation was made to city council. City council at their meeting provided direction to city staff. In general, not detailed line items, they provided information to city staff to allocate certain lump sum dollar amounts to various strategies.
Yeah.
And that's what staff has taken and implemented.
Thank you.
On?
Not at this time.
Okay, Ben.
Thank you for coming, and as a fellow city employee, I know and hear a lot of things, and I know you work very hard, so I appreciate your efforts. This March 30th money that was just passed, that's technically new money that was approved and would go through the same account string?
yes.
And what's your opinion on CORE, and are they efficient? Have they been efficient in what they have done, or what their interaction with the city has been, in your opinion?
So our experience with CORE, and right now it's primarily focused on the Castro encampment because I'm working directly on that particular project, has been that CORE has been very helpful in one, getting a hold of people because they have to be registered through what's called HMIS, so they can identify who they are, find out what kind of services they might be eligible for, and that's part of the reporting that we'll have to provide to the state because they need to see that all the folks that we're working with have been registered. And so CORE has been out there working with us day in and day out, and I think they're doing a great job for us. It's difficult work, working with people that sometimes don't want to talk to you, don't want to give you their personal information because it does require them to interact with CORE and provide personal information so they can log it in and put it into the HMIS system. But nonetheless, I think they've done a great job under very difficult circumstances to help us get people housed at the Castro encampment. But they're also doing that citywide. I haven't worked with them directly citywide, but I know they're out there doing a lot of work, reaching out to a lot of different people, providing services, addressing their needs. So in my opinion, my personal opinion, I think CORE is doing a great job working with us to address a lot of the issues that we're dealing with, and particularly at the Castro encampment. Thank you.
Is RCF still the program administrator or fiscal agent for SOS, or has that changed? I know that's how it started.
No, Rebuilding Together East Bay North was the entity that had the contract that SOS was working under. SOS has now created their own entity. They're a nonprofit organization, and so we're working with them directly.
Okay. And then and my last question, I think the home key program, a lot of people are definitely holding their hat on that. Hopefully that comes through. Is there an I don't think I heard exactly when. I know they can apply all the way up till the end or even until funds are exhausted, but is there an anticipation on the return date on when that would come back from the state or we would be approved?
Typically, once they get the applications, they will tell you that they need anywhere from 30 to 90 days, if not sooner, to get back to you and let you know if you received an award. Our experience has been with some of these programs, for example, we submitted the ERF round 2, and that's a lot of applications been submitted. There's a lot of work. I know several departments have been staffing up, so sometimes it's been taking a little bit longer, but they've been pretty good on getting back to people within 90 days or less. So once we get the application, again, it's a rolling application, so they're taking them as they come. They would announce when you would get that award, hopefully within that time period.
Thank you.
And I would add that from their perspective, they want to notify you as soon as possible because there are built-in deadlines for the use and expenditure of the funds and for properties to be occupiable. So it's really a bit of a burden on them to make sure that they get responses to people right away, because then the clock starts ticking on you, and we need to know if we receive the funds, that we can start working on it.
BK?
Thank you, and thank you for the presentation. In your opinion, is the $738,000 that City Council just approved in March, is that representative of an ongoing commitment? Is that a one-time infusion?
Right now, it's a one-time infusion. You know, if we are able to access funds from the ERF2 that we applied for, some of that would potentially be able to fund ongoing services for SOS. One of the other things that we're encouraging SOS and working with them to do is to hire a grant writer that will allow them to solicit or look for other funding. As part of this contract, the city is providing the $700,000. SOS was actually able to fundraise just over $200,000 that they're contributing, which represents about 25% of the total budget that they're providing funding for, and we're encouraging them to really try to continue to access other sources of funding, be it through the city, through the county, through the state, and private donations that they're able to fundraise. But as far as an ongoing obligation, this contract is just for a year. And the staff report did indicate that there could be an option to extend the contract for 1 year, subject to the availability of funding.
Linda?
Thank you. I just want to find out, would it be worth having SOS come and talk to us about what they're doing, how they're using the money that's been allocated? You know, I see some things that are happening there, but I know they're doing quite a bit. So would that be something that would be of value to us as a task force to have SOS, maybe Daniel Barth, maybe some of the people who he has as leads in the city come and talk to us? My suggestion.
Does anyone else?
Was that a question for me?
Well, it really was for this body, I guess, to think about maybe we can have him come and present information.
And are there any other task force members who have question on this issue? Don?
Thank you. I would welcome to have SOS come back and speak, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind hearing from some of the residents in the encampments coming by to hear what they have to say as well. If we listen to the public comments at the city council meetings, they don't always seem to agree with what we're hearing from the SOS representatives. It'd be nice to get a balanced report, or at least both sides of the issue. Thank you.
Are there any other task force members with questions on this item? If not, I want to call for public comment on this item before we go to the next report.
If I'm not mistaken, since this is just one item, can we ask for public comment at the end, or you want it now?
Yeah, because I don't want to make people
Okay.
if they have a question or
Okay.
comment.
Since I have the mic, are there any public comments? I don't see any hands. Thank you.
Then we can go to the next report.
All right. Who is ready to go next? ONS, YouthWorks? Sam is moving, so we're going to hear from the Office of Neighborhood Safety.
Good evening, everyone. Ooh, that was a little loud, I'm sorry. It's good to see everybody in person. Good to be back out. I do not have a slide. I will ask any questions, or answer any questions that you have for me, but it's gonna be hard to see. We were in here checking it out earlier. I submitted our detailed budget. That is not it. Yeah, the one that there you go. So just to inform all of you, the Office of Neighborhood Safety is fully staffed. Thank you very much. It was a very challenging process. City staff did amazing with supporting us through it. It was just really hard finding the right people, but we believe that we have fulfilled that obligation. And so as of April 3rd, all positions had been filled, and we have began training. And the amazing thing is that folks just got on board and ran with it. So we are actually already implementing some of the tasks that we were given by the Reimagining Public Safety Task Force and City Council. So to date, of the original 2.3 approved by the council, we have spent $331,572 on staffing, another $287,000 on cost pool and trainings. So a total of $619,000 from Reimagining. And just so I'm not adding into the confusion, for staffing, they call this Reimagining Public Safety dollars. So I think that might be where the confusion comes, and each organization has its own account string with these monies in it so that you and I can see exactly where those funds are going. Just so we can be clear, I am approximating with the staff costs being and fully staffed, another $400,000 of this going to staffing this fiscal year, and another $142,000 going to training, cost pool, and uniforms. So with that approximation, we're looking at a little over 1.1 spent of this budget. And next year, it will be fully expended. I can promise you that. But as I said, with the new staffing, and once again, we hired 5 new employees starting April 3rd. So that's when the biggest chunk of them all came in. Prior to that, one came in November, another in January, one in February. So we were kind of waiting to really get the training going until we were fully staffed, because we didn't want to have to duplicate efforts. So fully staffed, we had an all-staff training, and second week of April, came back from that. Everybody was very excited. Everybody was thrilled about the opportunities that they had to be able to provide the resources and the services to the community. We have already started engaging the unhoused population. We already have 2 groups up and running for the young ladies. We are gaining traction in the Latin community. That's a little bit slower, but we do have 11 folks that we're engaging. And that engagement happened due to an incident that happened at the fair or the carnival in Hilltop. There was a racial issue there. With staff, with the Latin population and staff, we're really focusing on the tensions between the brown and black community in this city. So we want to make sure that as we engage them, we're doing it right and we're doing it effectively. We have one staff member that is excited about engaging the population around 23rd and 24th Street. So we have gone to a meeting around that. We've gotten resources. She will find out what resources are available, because that is not our specialty. So we're making sure that we connect with experts from each individual field that we're going into that's new to us, to make sure that we're doing it right, and at the bare minimum, we're not causing harm. We want to make sure that we're providing a service that doesn't make anyone feel rejected or inflict trauma. So we're being very, very cautious about that. So yeah, we have life skills going on, because now we got a bunch of different groups, because we have the capacity and the staffing. We have life skills going on 3 times on Monday, 2 times on Tuesday, once on Wednesday, once on Thursday. I'm pretty sure by the time it's all over with, we will have 2 to 3 classes, maybe even 4, going any given day. So, I don't have much to report on programming, because, like I said, we're just newly fully staffed. But even with that happening, it's the 26th, so it's 3 weeks in, and they hit the ground running. So we're really excited about what we're going to accomplish in the coming months and years. And that is it for me. Any questions?
Um,
Thank you, Chairperson. Hi, good evening. I'm just curious, can you share what you're doing with the unhoused community?
Well, right now, so yeah, to be very clear, we're not duplicating efforts with the SOS staff. Everything that we decided to do with these resources already, they came from a lens of how do we use this to continue to reduce gun violence. So we're not, right now what we're doing is we're just engaging and let them know who we are. So we're going to the Castro encampment. They got some folks right over here on the railroad tracks behind Grip, where a gentleman got shot not too long ago in his tent. And so what we want to do is to get the information that we need, but we got to build the relationships first, to try to engage those who are causing the violence and the folks feeling unsafe, because that's our role, to reduce gun violence. And so once we can identify them, we just want to engage them in a much more in-depth and strategic way. We don't have the resources to be able to get folks housing. We're not specialists at that anyways, and so you have those specialists in the room already. But we do believe that as people are going through possibly one of the hardest times in their life, they shouldn't feel unsafe also. And so we want to work on the gun violence in that community, because as I had said, there's been, over the last few years, there's been multiple homicides and shootings related to the unhoused population. And there's a lot of people who will stigmatize that, like, you ain't got no apartment, but you got a gun, but a one-time purchase is less than half a month's rent. And so if you feel like you need to do that to feel safe, that's definitely something that they may invest in. And we just want to make sure that they don't bring and cause harm to others who are just trying to get through this very trying time in their life.
Is that it for you, Leah? Yes.
Does ONS plan on working with and building a relationship with West Contra Costa Unified School District to address any of the physical safety concerns that's going on within our schools?
Yeah, so our goal was to have a contract with them. That doesn't seem feasible at the moment, and I can't really answer the question on why. It's just they're not moving the way we would hoped they would move, and from my understanding, they got a lot of problems they're trying to figure out on their own that doesn't make this a priority. Yeah, and I'd love if somebody can push that envelope for us, but they absolutely have our scope of work. What we said is over the next 3 years, we would be like giving them in kind approximately $1.2 million in services and resources. And so I don't know why they're not moving on it, but like I said, there's a lot going on over there. And so I'm still in contact with them, and I'm still trying to make that happen, because we would love to be in those schools. We're getting creative, so we are in charter schools, and we are about to have staff try to get volunteer badges so that maybe we can get in through like personal connections with specific schools. But it would really be nice to have a contract and have access to all high schools and middle schools in this district.
I have a couple quick questions. One is just, are any of the new staff bilingual in languages other than English?
Yes, we hired 3 Spanish-speaking staff.
And then my second question is, if you could just illuminate for us a little bit of, like, as you're trying to build outreach to new groups, I know you mentioned that one happened like through a crisis situation, right? And then building relationships that way. What does it look like for you guys in expanding networks? What kind of work is that?
The good thing is every single individual that we literally handpick these folks, and they all bring their own network. And so we kind of naturally adopted that when we got them. But staff is making new connections. I'm telling them to go out, and as they're outreaching, sometimes it's slow during school hours, things like that. So they've been advised to go to organizations, see what they do. see what kind of resources they have. But the biggest network is building a good relationship, and then folks talk about it. Just recently, I got a young person who was talking to somebody on the street, and they was like, "Your brother used to work for ONS, right?" And he was like, "Yeah." And so he was like, "Man, is there any way you can connect me with him? I'm hearing good things about him, and I would love for them to help me because I got some issues going on." And because he's not out there, see, that's another thing. Outreach is only as good as folks who are out in the community. A lot of folks, they just staying inside, and they just, and so they still need the help, and they got to come outside sometime or another. But because folks are staying inside, it's a little harder to reach them if you don't have access to that house. So we literally ran a life skills class in an apartment on Monday because there was 6 youngsters in there, and they was like, "Yeah, we want to be involved, but we ain't trying to go nowhere. Is it okay if we do it right here?" I was like, "Yeah." And so spent an hour and a half with them and this was initial, so it wasn't like going off the syllabus that we build off of, but just getting to know them, getting to understand what issues they have. Because as they talk, you start to realize what you need to do for them, even if they don't really understand it themselves. But yeah, network is key. Network is everything, but it's all built on relationships.
Is that it for you? Don, I see your hand.
Thank you very much. Appreciate the update here. I'd like to go back to what you were talking about with your attempts to enter into a contract with the school district. And just using the word contract, it makes me wonder, what's the stumbling block? Is it financial issues with this? Is it access? Is it problems with the district staff, or is it just problems with the district board? Can you expand on this a little bit?
I wish I could, Mr. Gosney, but I don't know. And I think MOU would be a better term.
Okay.
But kind of the same thing. We're not charging them for any services at this time. Hopefully, in the future, they'll see the benefit, and I'm sure the city would love to recoup some of the staffing costs. But yeah, they have all the information. I'm learning it's difficult, the bureaucracy that comes with government, trying to come into agreement with government. But I also think they got a lot of other things going on right now that is taking their attention.
I can appreciate that, but they're like almost any other government body. They're flat busted broke. In fact, our school district is beyond flat busted broke. I think they started the year at $51 million in deficit. That's an awful lot of, $51.8 million in deficit. That's an awful lot of money to be behind. They've got some federal money to help. I'm sorry? I'm sorry, I thought I heard a noise there. Oh, I'm sorry. But have you approached the individual school board members, or just trying to deal with staff?
No, I have not approached school board members. I am dealing with the staff that's responsible for getting programming into the schools.
Okay, I'm bringing this up because, just like our city council, it's the elected school board members that set policy, and staff is technically supposed to work for them. So I'm just thinking as a workaround is to deal directly with the individual school board members and get them to buy into what you're trying to implement there, and then staff should theoretically come along. It's just an option.
That absolutely is an option. I hope it doesn't get to that, because I also understand that when someone's made to do something, it might not be a good relationship in the schools when we're working.
Again, I appreciate that. I do an awful lot of work with the school district, an awful lot. In fact, as soon as I leave here, I'll be attending that meeting. It's going on right now. But sometimes you've got to work directly with the school board members because the staff has their own idea and they forget who they work for. So,
Understood.
just a thought.
Thank you for that advice.
Hi, Sam. How long is the training process?
I'm sorry, but I didn't see you raise your hand, nor did you ask me to recognize you.
I raised my hand, Chair. I raised my hand, Chair. May I
Go
speak?
ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Sam.
Since we're talking about decorum.
Hi, Sam. How long is the training process or onboarding?
So this is a very new process for us to be able to have this many staff members start at the same time, but it's going to be a continuous training. As long as you're on board, we all continue to train. But the process that we created was once a week for 52 weeks, like specific training on specific items and processes. But you're getting trained consistently while you're working. Every new staff member is with a senior staff member, so the entire process is a training process. They had a homicide last week. The entire team. So we had 13 people at that homicide, and we didn't need 13 people at that homicide, but what we wanted is for the new staff, because this was the first time they had experienced that. We wanted the new staff to just observe what we did, and then we sat back and spent about 2 hours like speaking about why we did every specific thing we did, each individual. Why I was over there with the mother, why this person was over there on the corner with the young people, why you engaged family members who were about to fight, excuse me.
Right, they need it. So
Yeah,
it's like an OJT process.
So it's on-the-job training, but we have 4-hour, 5-hour training every Friday for 52 weeks.
Cool. Thank you for that. And then is there, I know this is frequently brought up as like, is there a breakdown with the change agents and responsibilities? A lot of times it gets put through an ethnic or racial lens, but is that really how it's done, or is it more broader than that?
Well, I mean, once again, this is new, so we're building this as we go. The goal was, like, we hired two Latin staff members because we wanted to make sure we were engaging the Latin community, and we wanted the Latin community to feel represented within that office. But the goal is that as we're engaging them, like if someone's getting taken for supportive service, or we're taking them on a referral, or even during the life skills class, we'll be having other folks in there because we want to mimic what we would like to see in the community. And the racial separation is palpable in our community right now, and so we want to make sure that we're the example of what we want to see. So the Latin community will have African American staff engaging them, and the groups that we already have going, which is mostly African American, the Latin staff is involved in that as well.
Thank you.
Kristen, and I'm sorry, I couldn't see you. To me,
Okay, yeah. No problem, Chair. I know I'm in your blind spot. Thank you for the presentation, update on budget. Glad to see that the office is fully staffed, finally. A lot of us in the community been looking forward to this. I'm glad Ben asked the question about training, because I was going to have the same question. I know you do a lot of training on like de-escalation, how to prevent an incident before it occur, and then if something is like in motion, try to get out in front of it before violence could occur. Is that also all of that is included in you said 52 weeks, right?
Yes, that is correct. So we're having computer training. They got to get trained on our data process. They got to get trained on city policies and procedures, emotional intelligence, facilitation practices. We're going to be doing some improv and role playing, Toastmasters, debate. Excuse me. We're also just from a conversation, and I'm coming up with new ones as the group engages with each other, because earlier this week I wrote another one down on my list, and it's some implicit bias, because I'm seeing how staff is engaging with one another, and they're just coming from their own experiences, which is nothing's wrong with that, but we have to learn, especially now, because we are doing different things. And so I'm also trying to help senior staff understand that, it just doesn't look the same anymore. And, change can be difficult. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, putting them in CPR training. We're going to do the stop the bleed training. I'm going to get all the little safety gear and what they need for all the vehicles. But yeah, as we go along, new trainings continue to occur.
Thank you, and thank you for saying like facilitation training, emotional intelligence training, city procedure, and all of that. After witnessing what I witnessed today in this meeting, I think city staff and task force could use some training on how to facilitate meetings when issues come up that don't have nothing to do with this meeting, where people are being attacked. So if you have any recommendations, you should probably send it our way so we could get it together.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Sam. Appreciate you spending your time with us and sharing. I have a question about the school district, just because I think whatever happens in the schools can spill outside and vice versa, right? So I'm just trying to get full clarity before I reach out to the school district, and as I'm sure some of our community members might. Has it become an issue of them just not responding to you at this point, or did they tell you, like, we'll just get back to you in X amount of time, or?
For complete transparency, at this moment, there's just no contact.
Fair enough.
Any other task force members who have questions? If not, let's call for public comment.
If anybody would like to make a public comment, please raise your hand now. No public comment.
Great, then we can go to the next report, which I believe is going to be YouthWorks.
Good evening, Tamara Walker, Employment and Training. So glad to see everybody in person. I'm going to actually turn this over to Bukai, but I did want to answer a couple of questions just before we start. So we are working with the unhoused. I personally went down to Castro and worked with some young people that were there to offer them some employment services. So we are working with the unhoused population. And then we have not hired, we've only hired one person, even though we have the opportunity to hire more. We have had issues with employing due to our salaries. And so we've had to put out the announcement again. So we put it out one more time. Hopefully we will get some more applicants, but we offered 2 people the position, but because our salary was so low, they were unable to take it, so now we've actually put it back out. And then also we have, Sam has one of our staff members now. But we are okay with that because that builds a partnership, because she knows our services and now she knows how to get her young people, ONS young people, into our system. So we are absolutely ecstatic that she's there, and she's a female as well. So again, it's a win-win for us and it's a win-win for them. So I'm gonna turn this over to Bukai.
Good evening. I'm just going to give you an update at where we're at with our numbers with the Reimagining Public Safety. We have received, as of today, 730 application. We completed 429 intake, meaning one-on-one interview with individual. As of today, we have put 310 individual into some sort of work experience. Through this partnership with, I want to say, for sure, ONS, we've been getting a lot of participants from there to come in and being served by us as well. Let's see. We have put some program through Kaiser as well. We've been having a cohort. This will be our 4th cohort with Kaiser, implementing healthcare, exploring young people into healthcare, and allowing them to learn more of healthcare to see if that is something they want to go through. And our new cohort, again, will start June 24th, I believe. And through that recruitment, through the work experience, we were able to put about 8 people into a training, which is an industry training, and out of that training, we were able to have 4 people that graduated from that program, and one got his Class A license and is now working, making $25 an hour with benefit. We also took in an intern from Richmond Promise as well, who interned at Richmond Work for, I want to say, 7 months doing the workforce. And she was just recently hired through Rubicon in Berkeley, Alameda County as a full-time case manager in Alameda County. We also have a stronger relationship with Richmond Promise, where we are assisting the city department to fill in some of needed staff because they're needing help. So we were able to place, I want to say, 8 of Richmond Promise students into the department. Each of the department. One was in housing. I can't see. Can you? Sorry, it's so small. Yeah, thank you. There you go. 2 at the fire. 1, of course, ENT, which got hired on as a full-time employee for Rubicon now in Berkeley. 1 at Human Resources, and they actually hired her on as an admin intern as well. 2 is at City Council, and I think 1 more is about to be interviewed by Trina there, and she's on her way being placed there as well. We got another individual hired at the finance office, and 1 at the Richmond Art Center. Next slide, please. Thank you for making it big. I think we went through that already. And these are the, we have actually more than 102 work sites since we started. I want to say we're probably at 108 work site right now. It is really tough because we don't have enough staff to really follow up with a lot of the work site, having to do the work site agreement, having, doing the workshop. So right now our workshop is still virtual, and a lot of the student that does not have access to Wi-Fi, they do come in and we assist them there in person as well. One thing I heard a lot of you were talking about the school district. We partner and have been attending all the Kennedy High School, Richmond High, Greenwood Academy event, and we have supported Kennedy High in their welding program, Richmond High in a lot of their other program that extended there. So we continuously are having a meeting with them to see how we can support the school district. That's about it.
Thank you, Bukai. Any questions? Don, I see you, I see BK, and Armand.
Thank you to both of you for your presentation. I know that we call this Youth Works. A lot of people think youth, we're thinking small people, okay? You expand well past 18 years of age. I just want to make sure you're aware that my own union, the Plumbers and Steam Fitters Local 342, are taking applications for the entire month of May. I will forward the packet to you as soon as we get out of here and we actually get Wi-Fi. This is terrible in here. But we start out day 1 apprentices at over $60,000 a year with over 12.5% pay increase for each of the first 5 years. That's on top of about $96,000 a year worth of benefits. It's not a bad career opportunity, not a job, a career, but it's an opportunity for you. And since this is my community, I don't care what happens in Livermore or in Oakley or Brentwood or anything like that. So I will shepherd the people you send my direction. I will shepherd them through the application process. We also have free training on how to take the test. It's at Contra Costa College right now. They can go out much farther away if they want to, but why not go to the one just down the street? But it's an opportunity, and put that out there for anybody, if you all that want good and decent jobs too. It's a career opportunity. Pays good money, feeling of accomplishment, but it's something that we strongly encourage our local youth to participate in. We're desperate for more Richmond and West County applicants.
Don, will you share with us the dates for the training, for the testing? Because we know the hardest part is the testing and the math specifically.
Okay, on that, be happy to. The first part is the application. It's an online application. It's for the entire month of May, okay? Then they will schedule a testing July, I think they said it was. And then the people that pass, I believe 70% is passing. They come in for an interview, which may not happen till the end of August or something like that. But the training is ongoing year-round. I mean, it's nighttime training to take the test. How to take the test. There's also a couple of study guides that you can get. Unfortunately, one of them just went out of print, and it doesn't come back, the new version doesn't come back into print until August 1st, which doesn't do you any good for when you're being tested in July. But you still may be able to find copies of the book at libraries, and I have a digital version of it that I'd be more than happy to share with somebody as long as they don't turn me into the copyright police. But again, I'll be more than happy to help with anybody that wants to try to take the test. We don't test your ability to put pipes together. We test your ability to learn. It's 8th grade arithmetic and mechanical reasoning. Gear A turns this direction, gear B turns that direction, that kind of stuff. Nonetheless, even the 8th grade arithmetic, if you haven't been doing it for a while, it can be a little dicey sometimes. Okay, but it's not hard. I mean, it's like anything else. Once you get to refresh your courses, you say, I remember that now.
Don, does it require them to have a driver license?
They have to get to work. You can take public transportation, but, I mean, I'm being honest here, I've never seen a construction site where public transportation comes anywhere near it. You take the biggest employer in West County, Chevron Refinery. The closest bus stop for AC Transit is 2 miles away from the contractor gate, and there are no sidewalks. You try going out there in the middle of a rainy day trying to get from the AC Transit. The bottom line is they have to be able to get themselves to work. Same thing, our training center is in Concord. It's a $35 million training center right now. We just bought a couple of new buildings. We're keep expanding. We pour a tremendous amount of money into it. Oh, by the way, the apprenticeship program doesn't cost the apprentices anything at all. We pay for everything, about $50,000 a year per apprentice for each of the 5 years. That's some serious money, a commitment on our part to make sure that we send people out to projects. It's only the best qualified people you can find in this country. So it's a good opportunity out there. I mean, again, I want to see, I was born and raised in Richmond. I'll probably die here. I want to make sure my people, Richmond residents, my neighbors, get into our program. It's a great opportunity, and we're not alone. The electricians, the iron workers, the carpenters, all kinds of building trades, good programs.
BK.
Thank you. Thank you, Bukai, for the presentation, and Ms. Walker. My question is more about you all. I guess listening to Don's, talk about the career and listening to ONS bringing in new people. I guess I'm aware that if you were starting this program from scratch, your salaries would probably be very different. So I'm wondering how your own salaries are reflected differently in all of this work you're doing. I mean, are you getting an increase based on all of the new work you're getting? And I say that because, again, I think if you were building this from scratch, your line item for salary would probably be very different than it is if you're just going up the ranks and getting, 1, 2, 3, or whatever percentage increase. So I'm hoping somehow you're compensated for all of the extra work. And I worked with a subgroup with you guys last year or the year before, and I know how much work you've done, and I keep seeing these numbers with all of the youth that all of the intakes and the people you've put on jobs, and I'm just hoping that part of the building is building up your own careers and salaries, because you're doing some heavy lifting there. I don't know if that's a question or a comment, but I just want to put it out there.
So we are City of Richmond employees, and so we follow the guidelines of the City of Richmond. So that's the best answer I can give. I mean, but we're compensated, so.
I'll be quick. Just two things really quick. Don, if you could share the info you shared with city staff, and maybe y'all could forward it to us, I'd be interested in that. And then for YouthWorks folks, you mentioned that it was hard to hire because of the entry level salary. What amount is that right now? Okay.
I would have to look it up, but we're moving to the second step, so employment specialist 2 versus employment specialist 1.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to add, in terms of salary, the City of Richmond, many of you may know, is going through a classification and compensation study. Hoping, I don't have all the details, but I'm hoping that implementation of that will be sooner than later. It's been going on for a minute. And so that will increase, for most classifications, the salary range. And I believe it probably includes employment specialist 1 and 2. And what Tamara was referring to was that I think initially an employment specialist 1 recruitment went out, and now we're changing it to an employment specialist 2, which has a higher range to hopefully get additional people to be able to apply and come in. I just wanted to share that.
And then I'll say thank you to YouthWorks. I know you all work very hard despite the staffing challenges. And special shout out to Cynthia, who I don't think is here in the room, but I know she works very hard as well. I guess my question is, what additional support would you all need from the task force at this time to help build up and continue to move YouthWorks forward?
You know, that's a really good question. I would say for us, it is to let people know about our services. You know, we all know that we have a lot of young people, just a lot of adults that are not coming back into the system. So for us, it's, you know, how do we really engage young people? How do we provide, you know, not just employment, but other additional services that they need? And what are those services that they need? You know, of course, we're all older, and, you know, the times have changed so much, you know, and we think we have our pulse on what young people need. But again, you know, not all of us, it's only 2 or 3 of us, you know, have our fingers to the ground or, you know, talking to young people. But, you know, it's a lot of us in here that work with young people, that deal with young people, that deal with their parents as well. You know, what is it that they're seeing is the trend? What are they seeing is the need of young people, and how, as a workforce system, not just an employment program, but as a workforce system, how do we support our young people? And then, you know, we have other programs, so how do we support the parents as well? So I think that's, you know, we're looking at it in a holistic, you know, a holistic aspect. You know, how do we support the young people holistically, and then how do we support the parents holistically?
Yes, just one more question. So I know YouthWorks has focused a lot on careers and jobs, and I know this has come up amongst a few people, but has there been any plan or thoughts about creating a program for youth on the entrepreneurial route? You know, because everybody may not want to work for somebody else, you know. I may want to start up my own business. I may want people to come work for me. So just thinking about that.
I think we're supporting Richmond High program that's actually doing that right now. So we're looking to support more youth that are going toward that program as well. It's pretty flexible to see, like, if, like, I think Richmond PAL also has that program as well, and if they're interested, we would be able to support them as well.
Don, I see your hand. Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Building off of Armand's question, do you guys have any plans for future, like future expansion of the program, like launching into new venues? I know you mentioned entrepreneurship, but any future plans of just expanding the program?
So our program is pretty expanded, not just under this funding. So we have other additional funding opportunities that expand the program. The young people that are in that are funded under this program can participate. So we have the training pieces. We have where young people can enter into. We have our construction trade program. We have where they're going to Kaiser, where we have a plethora of training opportunities and occupational skills that young people, as long as they're over 18, and our program goes to this program goes to 24, they can actually go into free training. As a part of the program. They'll just enroll in another part of our program. So we are a pretty comprehensive program. This is just one aspect of it.
Beautiful. Sorry, I have two more questions, Chair. Another question is the position employment specialist step 2. When will that be posted? I think it would be great if we knew so we could share among our networks if there's somebody in the city that could maybe apply for that.
It was posted and it closed. So,
oh, it's done. Okay.
Oh, right. It is. They actually decided to continue it. So it's continuous.
So it's online now?
It's online, yes.
Beautiful. Thank you. And then the third question is a little bit more about budget in particular. During the first allocation, we definitely wanted to expand. We wanted to expand with the 500 youth. You guys have definitely surpassed that. The 2 employment specialists, I know you're working on that. I just wanted to know if there's more funding that's essentially needed at this point to expand, which is why I was asking about if youth are being underserved. And then in particular, we asked a lot about bicycles, transportation cards. The community wanted, laptops provided to them. So there was just a lot of supplies, not just the 500. So I just wanted to see a little bit more about the supplies.
No problem. With the support services, a lot of the, I want to say about 32 participants there. We have leveraged with our WIOA grant to use that support services so that we don't use a lot of the general money grant, which is the RRI here. So we become very creative of how we use our support services because we do have to spend the money on the state side as well. So it was very important that we have this support from our Reimagine because it's allowed us to give every single person that walk into our door the work experience. However, we leverage some of the students that want to go further with their career pathway by paying for, let's say, for their Kaiser program that may cost them $7,500, right? That Reimagine can't pay. I did talk to the task force and request that some of them that are not in the EPTL is because it has to be in the state of California list in order for us to use our WIOA money to be able to pay Kaiser, and the task force approved that so that there may be some youth that may be interested in going to Kaiser, and we'll be able to do that as well right now. And also, I'm sorry, in the IT program, we did put 9 young people into the IT bidwise pre-apprenticeship, and 9 of them will be going into the full apprenticeship starting, I want to say, late May, so that they could get certified and be hired by Bidwise. And Bidwise has contract with Google and some other IT techs out there, so we're excited about that as well.
Don, you have a question?
Just a follow-up. With careers in the building trades, not just my union, but in the building trades. I just want to make sure everybody understands that by law, you have to be 18 years of age or older to be on a construction site. We all know we go to Home Depot, they don't care how old you are. Also, it has been a federal law since 1986. You've got to fill out an I-9 before you can be employed. You've got to prove that you have the legal right to work in this country. Okay, that's not us, that's federal law. Also, we do not discriminate against anybody that has a criminal past. Not at all, I guarantee it. Hell, business manager of my union was convicted of conspiracy to commit murder when he hired 3 guys to kill the ex-president of our union, and we re-elected him. All right, but lastly, and this is the world that we live in, almost every major construction project has pre-employment drug screening. This is not us. these are the companies. You go out to the Shell refinery in Martinez, they'll pluck a hair from you. They can tell you that you had smoked a joint 6 months ago. They say, no, we're not going to let you in. It's their house, their rules. But just be aware of that. My own nephew got booted from the program because it was more important for him to get high than it was to put food in front of his babies. Just, again, the world we live in. Okay, thanks.
Thank you for the presentation. I love YouthWorks. My oldest son, who is going to be 26 now, some of his first jobs came from Urban Tilt and YouthWorks. And so he got a lot of experience there. Well, since Don rose the issue around employing people with convictions, I don't know about the whole, convicted murderer thing, but we all deserve employment, right? I did have questions around, since Don did raise it and you have these positions, what type of policy do you have at the city level around people who apply for these positions who may have convictions? And do you have any data to show in your department specifically anybody you may have turned away from a position because they had a conviction?
So we do ask the question, just on we don't ask the question if you've ever committed a crime because of the ban the box in California. But we just ask the question of, we don't ask what you've done or anything like that, but it's just on the applications if you're a justice involved youth or anything like that. So we understand that we have to, one, go through the whole entire process before we decide where we place a young person, and then once we give them that, once we find a placement, then we ask the question, and again, we know that it's based on the conviction versus the employment opportunity. So again, those are, and we also make sure that we are placing people at friendly employment opportunities. So.
I'm happy to hear that about young people, but I also think the question related to the positions you have open in your department, the two positions, yeah.
In the city?
Yeah.
So the city has banned the box as well.
And you wouldn't turn anybody away as a result of a conviction, even if they were qualified for these positions?
Well, it would depend on, again, the crime versus the opportunity.
Okay.
Because that is that is California's policy. It's based on so if someone did, I don't know, it could be like, rob the bank versus working with a young person, that's two different crimes. So, it's really based on what the conviction is based on the law.
Thank you for clarifying that. I know folks are saying like, send it to us so we can share with our networks. That's my network. And a lot of people do not know that the city of Richmond isn't supposed to be asking those type of questions at the phase of applying unless you have been offered a conditional job offer. And so I just think it's important that the public knows that. And when you promote positions, do you make that clear in like a notification or anywhere they can go on your site so that they can know that it's not?
It goes through HR.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just want to make note of the fact that it's 7:15, and we still have not had any conversation about the planning for the community summit. So I'm going to actually ask Anne if you would indulge us, please, and have us move that item on the agenda. But first, before we do that, I have to call for public comment. Is there any public comment about any of the, about the YouthWorks report? Anne, how long is your update? Oh, I don't hear any public comment about the YouthWorks report. Anne, how long is your update?
We just talked, and because we're having a community meeting tomorrow about the topic, which you all will be there, I'm sure. That'll be an opportunity for you to ask questions, but she just wants to make one pitch about the survey, and we will move on.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Can you just hold on a second, let her make the pitch, and then I'll come to your question. Go ahead, Ann.
I'm sure everybody has already taken the survey, but maybe somebody didn't. We have the QR code. You can do it right on your phone. I also have paper versions of the survey. I have it in Hindi, Mandarin, English, Spanish, Portuguese. So I can give them to you. I have extras. That's the whole pitch. Yay, surveys.
And I am deferring to what this body decides to do in terms of this agenda item. So
thank you. Go
let
ahead.
us know, Chair.
I'd like to hear a more in-depth update because I know we just got the notice about the event yesterday. I know I can't go. I know a lot of other people might have already had set plans. And so I think while we're here, this should take priority as for our body.
Again, I'll just make the point that we did get a very in-depth report about the CCRP at the last task force meeting. But if folks want to go ahead, it just means that it's most likely that we're not going to be able to address anything related to the community summit, which, according to the last meeting, was planned for June 3rd.
It'll just take us a few minutes for that, that's short. It's 9:03. We've got our meeting.
And you want to go ahead and give a more in-depth update?
Okay, so Ann and I are going to tag team. I think we're waiting for the PowerPoint. You want to sit here? To load. So we're here to provide an update on Community Crisis Response Program, and it's with Urban Strategies. And I am a main staff liaison around this work, so we can really quickly go through the slide deck. Next slide. Next.
Yeah, let's not deal with who Urban Strategies is. We've said it before. Next slide. A lot of the questions that we tend to get when we're trying to find out, people want to know very, very specifically elements of the program that Richmond is going to adopt. Our job, and the next thing that we're going to provide City Council, is a report based on our research and community engagement. It's not going to say there should be 2 shifts, these are the times of the shifts. It's going to say this is what we learned from the community, this is what we learned in terms of resources, this is what we know about alternative emergency responses and various approaches. These are the considerations for you. I get questions like, well, where is it going to be located? It's not going to be in the report. That's going to go to council now at the beginning of June. But we're going to say these are some of the considerations that other cities have utilized. These things have worked well. This is what you want to do. Okay, so it's just not going to have some of the very, very specific questions that I get. What I do hear from the city, from the task force, and most of the people that we hear it from, is that Richmond is interested in teams of people who are not licensed clinicians, but are well-trained community members and an EMT who can respond to low-level calls and a broad range of low-level calls. Basically, the goal, somebody asked me recently, well, where do you envision it in 10 years? And the goal at that point is that you have a dispatch system that's very comfortable saying, if this call doesn't require a badge and a gun, then maybe community responders is a better approach. They can de-escalate, they can take the time, they can help people with resources if that's something that people are interested in. So that's basically what you're going to be seeing in the report to the community, to the City Council. So we have been surveying, we've been meeting with stakeholders, we've been meeting with community members in a broad range of situations, and really just trying to understand what people's experiences are engaging with emergency services now, what people's experiences are of crises. What kinds of crises do people experience where they say, I need some kind of help with this situation? and what kind of community and other resources people have identified over time to help them with crisis. And the last question that we've had for community is, what is it that you want to see for an emergency response for CCRP? We've been doing a lot of research, talking to stakeholders about the types of things that are listed here, what the assets are within the community, et cetera. We've talked to police, we've talked to fire, we've talked to dispatch, along with many other stakeholders. We have largely done a literature review. We have just recently gotten the matrix report, and that will be certainly reflected in the report that we provide to council. We've looked at all of the task force documents to this point. There was a lot of research done by the task force and a lot of deep work and deep thinking. And we've looked at a lot of the old, well, not that old, but other reports and such that have been written in terms of community needs, et cetera. Had lots of meetings. Next. The survey, as I mentioned before this quickie presentation, is open. We hope everybody will take it. I've got the QR code. If you haven't, it's a great thing to do during a meeting. It only takes about 5 minutes. And we're just really trying to get as many people to do the survey, and the results of the survey and some analysis will also be in the report to council. And there are community forums. One is on Zoom, one is in person, and we please encourage other people to come. So we're going to have a report, and we're going to do all of those things.
If, real quick, if you want to go back to the previous slide, the report, I know is where people really care, because that's the next thing. They've spent a lot of time doing community outreach and getting information, because it really is important. Our city council, our community really appreciates when we hear from community. We wanted to have that be part of what Urban Strategies Council was presenting to city council. And so it says May, that was the hope. The last meeting in May. This is also budget season for the city, so we're also looking at time frame in terms of when the item can actually be heard. But the last meeting in May is when they were initially scheduled to come. They're asking to come at the beginning of June. David Harris, who is the, what is he, the executive director? He's actually unable to come on May 23rd, so we're gonna ask for this to just get pushed to the next city council meeting in June. But in that report, as Ann stated, as part of the contract, they are going to provide city council with some frameworks around what the program could look like, some options based on feedback, based on research, based on work that's already been done. And it will be up to council, right, ultimately to make a decision about what this program should look like within the city of Richmond. What council directed staff to do was to implement a program, but they didn't tell us exactly what that program will look like, which is why they approved a contract with Urban Strategies Council to help us do that work. And Urban Strategies Council is actually continuing to be contracted with the city even after the report comes out to help us with implementation. And so it won't be that they give the report and then go away. Once council says do X, Urban Strategies Council is still with us to figure out how do we do X. What do job descriptions look like? They've already started to work on some of that, so we're collecting some of that information, protocols. If you could go to the next slide, here are some considerations that we're thinking about in terms of county integration. Where does it sit? What does staffing look like? What does the program structure look like? These are all things that we have heard or questions that Urban Strategies Council will help us figure out, but in the report, all of these things won't be figured out because we don't know what council wants to do. So I just want you all to know it's not, they submit a report and we're done. They are continuing to work with us. I'll also have on board an intern that is is getting her master's in social work from UC Berkeley, who's really interested in helping us with this project. She'll start at the beginning of next school year. It'll be her second year. And so just already lining up help to make sure implementation this program can be implemented as quickly as possible. I think that's our last slide. Thank you.
Questions? Anybody?
Thank you so much. We also have this in our deck and agenda, so really appreciate that. The one piece that I was wondering about was the funding, because I know that this isn't going to be enough. Will the report include funding? How to fund this?
It will look at issues of sustainability and funding alternatives. It's all over the place in terms of what programs do. Some programs have chosen not to try to get, Medicare reimbursement because of the restrictions that are put on a program in order to do that. And so, the considerations for funding and for sustainability will be in the report, yes.
And just to add to that, I think depending on, the Urban Strategies Council will lay out some different options, and I think depending on what council decides will help determine what it will cost for us to implement. So as an example, if they say, council says we want to have it be an in-house City of Richmond program when we want 20 staff because we want it 24/7, then we need to cost that out. If council says, we think that we can partner with a nonprofit and just hire one city staff person, we have to cost that out, right? So it just depends on what final determination city council makes, and then Urban Strategies Council will help us cost it out with the help of, if it's city staff or HR, to look at classifications, which may or may not exist right now. So that's another piece.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you. In the report, is it going to address the potential redundancies between the CCRP and the County A3 program? And I guess maybe I should back up. Is the task force going to see this report prior to council, or is this just going to go direct? And LaShonda's shaking her head no, so answers my question on that. But no, I'm curious about the redundancies between the county program and CCRP, if the report will address that. Because obviously there's going to be competition. County A3 is having a hard time staffing positions. And I think anecdotally, that's an issue. Also, if a response is escalated, I'm assuming those conversations have happened between the police department. I know that's not initially an issue to not 5150 anyone, involuntary hospitalization. But what will it be? The report address what to do if that need arises, and then how will the call kind of be made to? Will the report also address the call on how to address to use things that have already been paid for or potentially utilize like A3 as opposed to this response? I'll second it.
Call the question, please. To how long?
7:40, just 10 minutes.
Okay. Steve Bishop?
Aye.
Helen Burks? Aye. Marisol Cantu? Aye. Luis Chacon? No. All right, Don Gosney? Aye. Kristen Killian-Lopez? Yes. Armand Lee? Yes. Leah Murray? Yes. Marcus Sanjasing? Yes. Jamin Purcell? Yes. Deborah Small?
Yes.
Ben Terrio? Yes. Linda Whitmore?
Yes.
BK Williams? Yes. And Tamisha Walker? Yes. Cool. All right, the motion passes to extend.
We've been in touch with A3. It's a little challenging because A3 is not a fully developed program in terms of what it is that they are or are not doing, but we've had those conversations. And what is very, very clear is there are many situations in the city of Richmond that do not fall within the parameter of A3. You'll also have times until A3 is fully formed when A3 is just not available, if it's outside of their hours or whatever. I do not see it as a competition. I think that there is plenty of work. A3 has said they never really intend to expand beyond mental health calls. And A3 is the answer to your question about what do you do when somebody does need to be involuntarily hospitalized. because that's the advantage of having that county program. You can maintain a voluntary program that does not do involuntary hospitalizations. I will also tell you that when your team is in place, they will often take something that might otherwise be an involuntary hospitalization, and the person will elect voluntarily. They'll say, yeah, I really do need to go, and I'm going to go with you, because they understand what's going to happen if the voluntary team walks away. So there is plenty to do. That's the opinion of the police and really everybody that we've talked to, and I think that it's going to end up working very easily with A3. I don't think that it's going to be a competition. I don't even really think it's going to be a competition in terms of employment, because Antioch just staffed up a team, and they did it fairly easily. What they did is they paid for a very, very challenging job. And that's going to assure the sustainability and the stabilization and the stability of the teams. It also means you're not constantly trying to train people to do something because you've got such high levels of turnover. It's one of the major advantages as well that CCRP is going to have, because if you're not trying to staff every team with a clinician, you can recruit much more broadly for people who are interested in doing this kind of work. But it's very hard work, and it needs a really good salary. And then you get around the issue of recruitment.
I'll be quick. I'm just concerned about the late notice for the community forum and what kind of turnout that might lead to, especially since community engagement has been such a big part of the work. So could you speak to that?
So I will say that is on city staff, and this does not have to be, we didn't push it out in the time frame that we should have, and so that's on us. And that is usually not what we do. So I apologize for that. We usually are better about pushing it out sooner. So this does not, even though we're having one on Thursday and one on Monday, it doesn't have to be the last time that we have a community forum. But we did want to get some additional information in time for Urban Strategies to start to put together their report and analyze results from surveys and things like that. So we've already had that conversation about if we need to add another community forum, we can definitely think about that and look at the timing.
I mean, the other thing is that this report should not be the end of community engagement and participation. So, I mean, if I wouldn't worry that much about getting another forum going in time for the report. There just needs to be ongoing discussion with the community, and you're educating the community, you're engaging the community, they're participating, and if there's interest, then you need to continue to have those conversations. So, you know, that we need to do.
Yeah, and we talked about even after it goes to council, continuing to engage community to say, now what's next? And so we will definitely be working with the subcommittee of the task force, or the ad hoc group of the task force, to continue to work on that.
I'll be quick about this. I know there was a question about will a report come to this body before it goes to council, and the answer was no. I would encourage everybody on this task force to demand that it does, and reach out to your prospective city council members, whoever, you know, submitted you for appointment to this body, whatever, and request that the staff actually do be directed to bring it back to this body for review before it goes to the council. That's why I came to want to be a part of this work, not just like to sit here and do all of the work and not be able to see what it looks like before the council votes on it, because I'm also just concerned that there have been instances where I think many city councils have voted without actually taking a deep dive and getting input from the community. So I would just say, if you're concerned about it not coming back, you should reach out to the city council and tell them they should direct staff to make it come back this way before it comes to them.
And what I also can do, so initially, we would not have had another task force meeting before this was supposed to go to council. So now that we're having to push it back, I definitely can ask. It is usually our policy, or what I am used to, is that council gets to see it first. And so I'm happy to ask, in addition to you all doing whatever it is you feel like you need to do with elected officials, but I can ask and inquire about what our process should be. But the timing wasn't allowing for that before, and so we will see.
I mean, just, the thing is, oh, yeah, okay, thank you.
Sorry.
Are there any other questions? Before we go to the next item, I have to call for public comment. Is there any public comment on the report that we just received? Pass the mic to Kristen, please.
I think it's out of juice. Oh, it's okay. All righty. Just for anyone who doesn't know, I started working with A3 as a crisis responder last November, and we're staffing up. And as of April 1st, we've expanded our hours. We're now able to respond to community crisis work from 8 a.m. to 12:30 a.m. And we have a huge crew of overtime staff. So right now, the evening time is when we have even more staff than we do during the day. But as we speak, the bids are going out. First they go out internally, now they're gone public, and things are really starting to happen. And as of April 1st, we're no longer the original mobile crisis for the county. We're A3 Miles Hall. So it's all happening. It's very exciting. And myself, BK, and Steve met with Ann this week. So that was a really good meeting. And it's just really nice to be part of this task force and be at A3 because I can do even better at doing this work. So thank you.
Thank you, Kristen. Any other public comments or questions related to the CCRP? I don't see any, then we can go to the next item, which is to receive update from the Community Summit Planning Subgroup and discuss and approve any recommended changes to the summit.
I'm going to talk fast. We have a location. It is the beautiful Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School that I also work at during the day, so I'm biased, but it's beautiful, and it's fairly central as far as just for people to find a way there. There's public transportation that gets really close to it. The bus stops at the park right across from Kennedy. Our program is slated to begin at 9:30 with an introductory discussion. We then will go into a first round of breakouts. We have 5 rooms of breakout rooms. We will be typing up this information and sending a download of this to staff to send to everyone. We're also working on a draft flyer now that we have our location. That was the biggest piece, especially moving without budget. So, one round of breakouts. We have a total of 4 rounds of breakouts, so people will get a chance to go to at least 4 of the groups. They might choose to split time between during one of the sessions. We have a break for lunch, and then we have a closing. So the entire program from beginning to end, 9:30 to 2. That also includes a resource fair with different community orgs tabling during lunch and after. As far as the breakout rooms, from the 5 people in the planning group, we have each focused in on one to kind of be point for and setting up and inviting experts to be part of the discussion within that room. But this is designed as a forum, so it's not they're sitting and getting a presentation for the bulk of it. It's a brief sharing, making sure we have experts in the room who can answer questions along the area as well, and then a structured conversation. So myself, I'm the point for harm reduction and overdose prevention. Randy is for traffic safety. Armand is for youth safety and employment. Jamin is for police procedure and practices. And Linda, now BK, is for poverty reduction strategies. With that, we will be sending asks to see if there are any task force members who can come be in each of those rooms as a second, basically someone to help with the note-taking and making sure that everything goes smoothly so that the person whose point can kind of handle other things as far as like the flow of conversation in the room and really act in a facilitator capacity. We are sending out invitations to orgs. We will ask if there's information of connections you would like to make sure that we make to have people in there and the information that we're submitting to the group. We are excited.
Real quick, is there anything you're doing to publicize this?
There's a lot.
Oh, there is?
Well, yeah, sorry, go ahead. We have an Eventbrite that we're creating, we have flyers that we're drafting, we have a digital form that people can be able to fill out to be able to get information, and we will be advocating to the neighborhood councils and to KQED, as well as trying to push it through our vast networks of social medias.
Cool. I was just saying, because I actually spoke to 2 different people I know. What? That's it? I know two people at KPFA and also for East Bay Express. They write stories and they have their own radio show.
We would love it.
So if you want me to would it be helpful for me to get you in contact with these people? Because they're very excited about it and they said they would do stories on it and publicize it as well. So.
If you could tell us what actually they would like, we can provide it.
Okay, yes, exactly. The information and everything, that's what I'm asking. So if that'd be helpful, let me know.
That'd be really helpful. And in fact, actually, everybody in this room, if you have somebody that you know who can help sponsor this event, whether it be a community organization, whether it be RPD, whether it be anybody that you know, we do not have a budget, to be clear. And so we do want to provide lunch, though, because we believe that that's one of the best ways to be able to attract people in. So if you have any person with some loose change, please throw it our way. We want to make sure that this is going to be the best event possible. And as well, if you have any suggestions, we've already been starting to reach out to experts, but if people have suggestions that perhaps we have not been able to reach to, we are open. This is a collaborative effort. End.
Meeting is adjourned.